One of the questions was, how would Audrey have coped with self-isolating and loneliness? Well, she never had to self-isolate during the war because of the fact that she was working at Vogue. She lived in London. She could walk to work even if the buses and tubes weren't running during the Blitz. Her parents lived in Epwell, a little village outside Banbury. They were both in their 70s and her father's health was failing. So she was very aware of the problem of loneliness during the war. And she went up to Epwell as often as she could, but that was probably only once a month. She wrote to her mother and rang her regularly. She also was very aware that some of her readers who had been moved to the country away from the bombing would be lonely and feeling concerned about how to cope, especially in the early days of the blackout. So the pattern editor at Vogue advised women in particular to make dresses and use the Vogue patterns, but Audrey was much more keen on recycling, so she urged her readers to take their old clothes and refashion them. She showed how an old coat could be designed into a new, much more modern looking edge-to-edge coat, and she also encouraged them to read. Now this is something that I feel very strongly about today, because nothing is better than escaping between the pages of wonderful books. And that's what I'm going to be doing a lot of over the next few weeks. I am never lonely when I have a book, and of course the one I've got sitting on my bedside waiting to be read is The Mirror and the Light by Hilary Mantel. But there are so many other wonderful books. And I'm going to quote one of my favourite phrases from a children's book that we used to read the boys when they were little, Roald Dahl. He wrote, "A book never ends when it's full of your friends." So think about that. And when you're feeling lonely and isolated, pick up the phone or send a message to somebody who's probably even more lonely and isolated than you are.